Welcome back to the Pilates Exchange, everyone. I am your host, Hannah Teutcher, and this is the podcast where we talk everything Pilates teaching, Pilates studio ownership, and everything in between. So sometimes it ranges on the philosophical side, sometimes more operations, marketing, like all the things as far as the studio ownership goes, finances, pricing, all that. And then we talk about how to teach even better. So that is what we do. Today, I picked out one subject that I think is really interesting because I actually didn't think there would be so many different opinions about this um, online. So I'm going to read you some comments. This one is about arriving late for classes. And I'm going to take this in a couple different angles. The pros, the cons of having a late policy, a closed door policy on an operational level. So how is this going to affect the studio owner? How does it affect the teachers? And how does it affect the clients that are in there? So everything that we ever talk about, I would say most of it is about the gray, right? So I'm not telling you what you need to do. I'm telling you about the decisions and the decisions that I've made and the thought process that's behind it, why I've made those decisions, because sometimes that's helpful for other studio owners and teachers to make good policy changes, either policy changes or to lean into the decisions that they've already made. So we're specifically talking about when people arrive late to your class, what do? And like my studio, I've worked in a lot of different places, and people have different ways of approaching it. So I'm going to tell you just about the evolution of what I personally decided and why I've made those changes. When I first started the studio, I was I was on my own. I didn't have any teachers working for me. Chris wasn't working for me, and I was renting a space within a physical therapist practice. So there was another entryway, and then there was a door that came into my studio space. It was a very small space, and at that point, I was just like anyone that arrived at any point, I was like, warm up, let's go, and let's just get into class. And so if they arrived late, I let them into class and just hope for the best. And it was me recognizing that sometimes things happen in between and they can't show up on time for whatever reason. The bus was late, whatever. There's many different reasons why someone can arrive a little bit late. And so that was my first policy. And what I noticed over time was that there are people that are repeatedly late, and those are people that are always early. And I personally started to feel very disrespected in my group classes. So, I was in charge of giving a great experience in the class, and people would arrive late. One instance in general, uh, this person would consistently, no joke, 10 minutes late every class. So I've already covered all of the warm up stuff, and she was very insistent that she couldn't arrive on time. Life is too busy for her, whatever. But the problem with that was that later, when she stopped coming to classes, and I did ask her why, it's because she had back pain. Okay. She said, I always have back pain in your classes. And my point to her, I was like, you know what? It could be, sure. But on the other hand, you missed the warm up, you missed all of the instructions, you missed how I cue and everything in between. And I could try to do that, like, why would I redo all of that information for the second time, starting at minute 10, 11, 12, when everyone in my class has already heard that thing? Right? Like, it's not fair for the people that are already in there. It's not fair to me to not do the exercises that I'm asking of you and then blame me for something that is happening in your body. So that was one instance where I was like, okay, well, this has got to change. Another instance where what really made me rethink, I'm going to do 3 instances of this. So 3 real situations in my life. Another time, a new person came late to class, and I would say it was in the 10-minute range, 10, 12 minutes. She came in, didn't know this woman at all. I said, all right, then come on in, and sure, right? Um, so I go through my class, right? And I said, like, I introduced myself. She introduced herself, and it's like, is there anything you want to tell me before you jump in? Are you warm? And she's like, nope. Okay, let's go. Okay, so I do my entire class. This woman, after the fact, I was like, hey, how was it? Everything. And I'm watching, I'm paying attention, and she's making choices, but I don't know. She didn't give me any information. That woman had 2 knee replacements and a hip replacement. Would I have chosen different exercises for her? Absolutely. Is it my fault at that point? No, I do not take responsibility for that person. So she said, yes, I didn't have a good time because I can't do half these exercises. I'm like, yep, that's right. You couldn't, you shouldn't. I wouldn't have given them to you. And it is still the responsibility of the person that came late to take ownership. Like that's absolutely ridiculous. And it pissed me off on such a deep level because of how am I supposed to excel at my job if none of that information is given to me? Third instance of why I have a very clear policy now and I didn't then. Okay, so I'm still like, this is years in the making. This whole, okay, but I don't want to turn people away from my doors and all these different situations. Third situation, a personal training client that had prepaid for the whole year. Number one, I'll never do that again. Okay. 2, this person would arrive 15 minutes late, 20 minutes late, 25 minutes late, then walk in and say, I paid for your time. You have to be there. Give me the rest of the workout. Okay, so she's right. Like, she paid for my time, but it is so disrespectful to me to sit there and wait. I can't do anything. I got to be there, right? I have to be present in the room because sometimes she just didn't show up. That is such a disrespect to the time that I bring, the expertise that I bring, the passion that I bring to every session. That person eventually left. It wasn't a good fit, obviously, for my studio and my values. So let's review this. Okay, so these are the reason this kept on happening to me is because I did not put in good policies. I wasn't clear. I wasn't clear on my marketing, my setup, my website, all the things. Like, I take full responsibility of it. And the more, because I just thought it was like, it's clear. You show up on time. Like, I'm from the dancer background. That means you never show up late for a ballet class. You don't do it. Like, if you're a professional dancer, you will never be late for class because you can't take the class. Like, once the music starts, you are late and you're out of that class. That is the background that I come from. So it never even crossed my mind that I needed to have a policy surrounding this because I was like, oh, they're all adults. They'll know this. But that is not the case. So I take full ownership of all of the situations that were there. It is my fault that the doctor that was always late and had back pain. It was my fault that I did not insist that she arrives in time or she doesn't participate. It is my fault that someone walked into my class and knew, and I didn't have the proper background. I should have said, no, you cannot take the class. It is my fault for having a personal training client that didn't respect my time. I didn't enforce the policy. Most studio owners hit a wall, not because they're not good at what they do, but because the back end can't keep up with them. Waitlist filling up, new clients falling through the cracks, no time to think about marketing, for example. Offering Tree is built to grow with you. From your first 10 members to your first 100, one platform handles it all. Book a free demo at the link in our show notes and mention Pilates Exchange for an exclusive discount. So I recently, like, we've been talking a lot about this as a team. as we're enforcing our late arrival policy on a different way. And I'm going to go deep into the um, policies and the why that we're actually doing things different. And I'm going to give you an alternative view of why you should actually let all these late people come into classes. But let me just say that everything that I do in my studio has really clear reasons why this works for us in our studio. It might not work for you and your studio, and it's all about making decisions. And the problem that I was explaining before in those three other instances is I did not make a clear decision. And I didn't have a policy in place, and therefore I cannot enforce the policy. So, clear decisions, clear policies help everyone play within the rules, and then you won't be upset at the situation. Like, you can't be angry because someone is coming late to your class if they don't know that that's how you run your studio. So I believe that class starts even before the first exercise, actually. I believe that your training as a teacher, your introduction to the person, you're checking in with them. How is their body? How are they feeling? You're noticing how they're moving in space. You're noticing how they're arrived. What's their stress level? Are they smiling? Are they frowning? Like, all of that goes into how maybe you're going to cue later, or how you're going to approach your class, depending on, how many people are in your class, right? So, smaller studios, you can really tailor make the experience a little bit more, personal training. And then, of course, if you have a class with 50 people in it, you might not be able to personalize that much, but it's still really valuable information to know as people are arriving. So, and then also as a studio owner, let's back up on a different perspective. You are protecting the experience of the client by enforcing an early arrival policy, because then you get to check in with them. Is there anything that they, if it's, whether it's the first time that they're there or it's the 300th time that they're there, it's still a really important arrival. Get your brain ready for class. There's community building that could be happening in the say in the dressing rooms, like that is a space that time before and time after class is where connections are made that are outside of your studio. And we do know community, so strong connections in your studio space, have a tendency to help people stay longer within your business. So it does behoove you to consider what that means, what that looks like in your studio. The next reason why I think it's really important is that safety comes first. Now, I am a very experienced teacher, so I do know that I can be, like I'm not going to have them in a headstand or in their first couple seconds of class. Like, I can adjust my classes depending on who's in there. But if I've done a warm up and the warm up then leads into whatever else is going to happen. Maybe I let people know what the focus of the class was. Maybe I let them know. I don't know. There's like all of these little details that generally the first few moments, first few minutes is where the teacher is going to be talking about what's happening in the next hour or so. And that's how the awareness is coming. That's where the body is getting warmed up, all sorts of things. So I believe that safety does come first. And I used to, my old policy, I said, come on in, warm yourself up, do a couple of exercises, and then join us. If it was the machine, on the equipment, do some footwork and then join us when you feel warm. So that's what I used to do. But then they've still missed valuable information. So yes, their body is warm, but their brain isn't there because they are, they don't know what the focus of the class was or anything else. So safety is warming up. Yes, it's setting up correctly. Another aspect of this is that in our studio, I used to, old Hannah, old studio, I would set out all of the the equipment that I was going to use already on their mats. So they was ready to go when they came in. My new policy is that we have like a menu that's on the side. And so people know what we're going to be working with in each class. Okay. And in that menu, the reason we give them choices sometimes. So if there's weights, for example, in a power Pilates class, there's weights. You have 4 kilos, 6 kilos, or 8 kilos. You choose the weights that work well for you because we're enforcing autonomy. And there's a lot of interesting science about autonomy and how empowering that is to be able to decide today, I am going to go get these weights because I'm feeling strong, or I'm going to take these weights because they fit my energy level better. Okay. So what does that mean for latecomer policy? That means in my studio, if you arrive late, you still need to go get your props. You need to make decisions about that. You haven't heard what you're doing for class, so you might have chosen a different thing. And then you're traipsing in with all this extra stuff. And that is just very, very distracting for us. And you could say, yeah, we'll just put the weights out. Yeah, but it then doesn't belong in that concept of autonomy in the classes. So whether it's a TheraBand and choosing the resistance for the TheraBand or taking 2 TheraBands or whatever, again, it's a choice that we've made. So that is another aspect. Another one. We went back and forth with if a person is 1 minute late or 5 minutes late or 6 minutes, like where do you draw the cutoff? You know, we had it for 5 minutes. So we tried that for a while. If someone is within the first 5 minutes, then they'll be let into the class. But then people started ringing the doorbell at 6 minutes. And they said, yeah, but I'm just 1 minute late. No, now you're 6 minutes late. You know, and if it's not 6 minutes, it's 7 minutes. Well, you let her come in at 6 minutes. I'm at 7 minutes. Why can't I come in? Then it's at 8 minutes. And the bar just keeps on pushing. Like it's going out, out, out. So where is the limit? Is what, how do you enforce a policy if you make exceptions, right? So if it's arriving on time is my policy. You arrive. Actually, I love the studios, and maybe I'll have to change this one. I love the studios that say the doors are closed 5 minutes before the hour before your class starts. That is what it should be. We're going to work towards this one because I actually believe that is a much better policy. 5 minutes before the door is closed, because you still have to put your stuff away. You need to get changed. Maybe you fill your water bottle, so even for the people that we close the door and they're still having to get themselves together before they come into class. So, I'm for that actually, but we're not there yet. Then you have to also consider as a studio owner, if you decide, whatever you decide, someone has to enforce it. Are you paying for front desk staff, a greeter? Does the in our case, like why it really doesn't work is the way that our studio layout is, someone would either have to be standing outside to let people in, or one of my instructors would have to go and open the door, then let people in. So they have to leave their teacher, like literally leave the physical space to go open the door to let this latecomer in. And that's a distraction. That's a distraction for the teacher who has gotten into their class. And then they need to break their train of thought, go let the person in, tell them what they need, come back into the class and try to continue. It's not fair for my instructors if there is not a clear policy like that. Plus, it's unfair to all the clients, right? They are there, the clients that arrived on time. They're there, they're ready to go, they're in the flow. It's time that they are paying for, right? They're paying clients. They want to be there. Not that the other people don't want to be there, but they need to organize better. But the people that are in the room, and then the instructor needs to go out, or maybe the instructor doesn't need to go out, but the person comes in, they're asking questions, then, oh, my knee hurts. I can't do that. My shoulder hurts. Or, and. There's different types of people. Some people would be absolutely fine just sneaking in, finding the mat and sitting down. Absolutely. But how do How do you draw the line? Oh, she's a quiet person, so we'll let her in. She's a real loud person, so we won't let her in. Right? Like that's unfair. It's different treatment. That doesn't fly either. You may miss, like if someone is late, they may miss important information. So as a studio owner, like if you're getting announcements in at the beginning of class, then that late person has missed it. You've missed your opportunity there. Um, Maybe important information is stuff like we were talking about before, where the client needs to tell the teacher, "Hey, I'm pregnant. Hey, I'm experiencing back pain today," or I've had a surgery or an injury, or I have two knee replacements and a hip replacement. Like all of that kind of stuff is important information that if we do not have time as the instructor to receive that information and adjust, then it's not fair for them. These conversations are generally happening before the class starts, and that's how we adapt to make the workout safe. The way that I think about it is like, um, you're boarding a flight, like you're at the airport, last call is last call. Then they shut the doors and then you're done. Like, as much as you can say, "Oh, I was only 30 seconds late," the door is closed. They're not going to open the door for you. Um, I maybe I'm feeling, I don't want, I'm maybe I don't want you to think that I'm justifying my, like that's just so many other instances in the way our society functions. It would be an absolute no-go. The bus is gone, the train has left, the plane has taken off, the boarding has stopped. Why would it be any different to uphold those standards within your studio space or your classes? That's I'm thinking about, And it's not about saying no to the person. You are saying no to the person, but it's about respecting the time, protecting the space, the energy, protecting your teachers, like how protecting your staff. How are they going to know who, oh, she's the quiet one, we let her in. She's the loud one, we won't let her in. Like all of it's unfair to your staff and your teachers to have to make those decisions, I believe. So enforcing them has to be then across the board. I do feel like it's been worse since after COVID. And it's been like especially bad, at least in our studio, I would say the last 6 months. I don't know why, but we are doubling down on what our policy is, and that is why it's at the top of my head. Because enforcing now policy, which is on the books, has to look a whole bunch of different ways. You have to, as a studio owner, you need to say exactly what is your policy. What does it look like? Go through all of the instances. How can you mitigate problems before they're even there? How do you communicate this to the clients? Through the house rules, through the website, through the emails, through all of the things. Like, how are you going to get this information out? How long is it going to take to make this change, if it is a change, or enforce this policy? All of these things are decision making that has to come from top down, right? Like you, the studio owner, need to make the decision to be able to do this. And before you start making decisions, I suggest, if you have employees like I do, that you talk with them as well, so that they know what's going to happen. You get their feedback, their input, and then you make a clear decision that everyone is going to be following. You can't have one person doing this, "Oh, it's okay for me if they come in late," and then the next person on your team doing something else. Everyone has to have the same rules and guidelines. Now, this is regardless of whatever you decide, the sameness has to be, that's something that you definitely need to do. So I want to bring attention to a couple different Instagram messages that we got that I think are really interesting. And so I'm giving now the opposite. Okay. This is not my policy, but what I had previously thought, when I had different policies, this is what it was. And I thought it was very well said. So I'm going to read a couple of them. So one person said, unpopular opinion, I disagree. Meet people where they are at. There are a few that are chronically late. It's okay. Showing up is half the battle. They can warm up and join when they are ready. And then there's another comment under there. I'm with you on this, especially moms dropping off kids at school. I think there's a big difference between a few minutes late and 10 to 15 when it's really disruptive and they clearly miss the entire warm up. Okay, and another one about this. Like they said, oh, this conversation is getting good. Yes, and it is not our jobs as teachers to enforce policies. I 100% agree with this. That's why it's really important as a studio owner to make this. It is front desk, management, and lead teachers, and it's a conversation. If it's chronic, what's going on? And again, it's about management. Most students are doing their best to make class into their lives, and for some teachers, a very late student can be disruptive. It's also a personal choice. Giving grace and asking question, working with management. So I think that there may be a gray area. There may be, and it really does depend on your studio setup, like the actual physical space. Do you have space for do you have an entry where people can arrive, get themselves ready, and then enter into the class? Our studio space does not have that. So you open the door and then you're in the studio. Like there's a class going on. So if someone comes in, they are disrupting the first studio space and then possibly even the second studio space when they open the door. And then someone needs to talk with them. I do not have a front desk staff that's there. I have a back office that's always working. But a front desk greeter is not part of our studio setup at this point. So we have to have policies that work in our studio. And that's what I'm encouraging you, studio owner, and you, teacher, to really think about. Like, what is it's always, like I said, it's always in the gray. It's always more nuanced. There is never a clear right or a clear wrong in here. But what you do have to do is make a decision. So that's what I'm encouraging you to do, because it protects your space, it protects your energy, it protects you not being upset when people do something than what you thought they would do, like I did in the very beginning. So I encourage you to take a look at it. And yeah, this type of thinking is what you should do for every part of your policies. All of it. Make those your standard operating procedures, your SOPs, and run with that. I want to say thank you so much for spending your time with me. I hope that at least I give you a couple different ideas into the way my brain works and my experiences, the good, bad, the ugly. A great way to support us is to share it with another studio owner or a teacher, or someone maybe that is, dealing with this issue in their own lives. Another great way to support us is if you are looking for software, check out our sponsor offering tree. They have free demos. Check it out. I'd love to hear what you think about it. Thank you so much. Last way to support us, and also free, is to rate our podcast. Rate it, follow it, subscribe to it. That helps us get the word out, and we would love to support more studio owners and teachers. Thank you so much for your time. Happy teaching, everyone. See you next week.